you hear us, Jay? Or not yet? Okay. All right, Chuck, I think we're ready. Jay, are you able to hear us? You're muted, Jay. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right, good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll begin by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, which is approval agenda and approval of the minutes. I had corresponded earlier today about what I think maybe a bit of typo and it's distributed.
Yeah. So on page 2, under the current board appointees and then nominations, where Jay's name exists, that should have been vacant, and then Jay goes over to the nomination section of that. So just for clarification purposes. So since at the beginning of that meeting, that position was vacant with the departure of Kathy Rosdick and the appointment of Kevin to secretary prior.
So Mr. Alperson is a member at large then, essentially.
He is now the assistant secretary treasurer.
All right.
As was adopted at that meeting.
Okay, great. So he's not off the hook then.
Nope, he's not off the hook.
He can run, but he can't hide, is what we say, right? So, okay, very good. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So
A second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 2, citizens' comments. Are there any citizens to be heard this afternoon?
Nope.
All right, very good. Thank you. On to the finance report, items C1.
All right. So in front of you is the balance sheet for the Redevelopment Authority. Didn't provide the profit and loss this week, and I can explain that. If you switch to page 2, the third line from the bottom, that negative 328,000. Last week when April went to pull the profit and loss, and that she discovered that we were in the negative as far as revenue goes. And so we started to investigate that, trying to figure out what was going on. Come to find out that because the new QuickBooks pulls in all of the information from our bank accounts, and they did the migration from 2014 to QuickBooks Online July 1st, it pulled in information prior to July 1st, even though they didn't want it to. So sometime between the last board meeting and now, that information was loaded into the QuickBooks. We've reached out to McGill, Power, Bell and Associates, who have been very helpful this entire year with getting the authority switched over to QuickBooks and providing guidance to the finance department. They are going to come in and, remote in and rectify the situation. They're going to transfer over the 2014 QuickBooks, do a complete migration of all of the information, and assist with the cleanup of all of that. So they were unable to give us a time frame as far as when that will happen, but they are going to start working on it here the end of this week or early next.
Okay. So maybe issued financials in a couple, 3 weeks?
Yes.
Okay. And we'd like to have those sent out in, when they're ready then, so we could.
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as it is all corrected, we will get the board an updated copy of those.
Okay, perfect. So that concludes our financial report then?
That
Mr.
is the
Snippert?
financial report.
Were there any questions for Mr. Snippert? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the the one financial report that is available?
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
On to the executive director's report.
Did you want to go over the financial statements?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, no problem. So for your review and approval is the 2021 financial statements completed by Felix and Glucker. They had no significant findings. One matter of review as far as policies and procedures were noted, and it's in your letter on page 3, was the segregation of duties, just some recommendations from them as far as how we mitigate our controls within the office and making sure that there's adequate controls for oversight. And then Amy she provided it. She's unfortunately not able to attend today, but she did say if there was any questions from the board, certainly let me know. I'll forward them on to her, and then, or you're welcome to reach out to her directly. So.
Okay. And I see that it's an unqualified opinion, so that's good, right?
Yeah.
We just did a couple comments in the management letter, which is fine. Are we looking for this to be approved sometime in the near future? I don't know that we can approve it tonight because it's the first time we were seeing this, right?
Yes.
Okay. So ultimately, is there a time frame that you'd like the board to approve this financial statement?
Sooner than later. We were supposed to approve it typically in August is when
August.
we get it, but they were delayed due to staffing getting it to us. So, you know, if we don't approve it tonight, we'll look to approve it in November.
I'm of the opinion that I like to have a few days to review it. I don't know what the other board members feel, but I feel that, you know, for us to, you know, do our due diligence to take a look at it then. So maybe we can review it, and maybe by Thursday, we can call for an email vote. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
With that? Mr. Alberstadt, does that work for you?
That's fine.
Yeah, I figure if maybe 3 days, so Thursday, close of business, if that's for everybody, we'll ask staff to just do an email reminder and give it a email vote, so we have that for our files.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't want to hold things back, but we also want to make sure that we're discharging our duties here. All right, very good. Now it's on to our executive director's report.
All right. Thank you. So in front of you is the property activity report for August and September of 2022. No properties were acquired during that time. We did file condemnation on 25 properties on August 8th. Which was approved by the Redevelopment Authority Board on June 13th. We sold 4 properties, 2 of those over on Parade Street to the East Side Renaissance, 1 on East 4th Street, and 1 on East 22nd Street. All of those proceeds are received by the Redevelopment Authority and then passed on back up to the city's CDBG fund. And then as far as Blighted Property Review Committee, in August and September, blighted in 11 additional properties, rescinded 5. Right now, we're currently sitting at 202 properties with active blight designations, 67 of which are under some level of intervention by the Redevelopment Authority or the Erie Land Bank. So, and then that committee is set to meet this Wednesday at 9 a.m. for the October meeting. That is the property report, and there's a resolution for that.
All right. We have a resolution in front of us to accept the property activity report. Is there a motion to accept the resolution?
So moved.
Kevin, thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, and then, thank you. The rehabilitation report for October, lead hazard control grant is moving along. Right now, we've completed 48 projects. Still looking to get some more into the pipeline as far as that goes, but we do have 11 properties under contract with our 2 lead abatement contractors that we still currently have. And then we're still processing, you know, roughly 60 additional applications. So as applications come in, you know, we got the 2 major programs right now for the city of Erie, being the lead hazard control program and the healthy home. So we certainly try to look at those applications and funnel them into whatever funding source we feel would help them best, and we're moving them back and forth and trying to get everybody as much help as we can. So the Healthy Homes program's still moving along. We have 2 projects completed so far under that, and many more to go. So we're, like I said, we're still processing applications there. CDBG funding, the CD21 projects have been completed. We had an extension on that until September 30th of this year. So those projects have all been completed. As far as our new contract goes, we have 5 projects that are in process. We basically had projects from last funding year that were unable to be completed by the September 30th deadline, so those will be rolled over and approved in the 2022 funding stream. And then as far as the home funds through the city of Erie, we're still working with them to process 12 projects with another 8 in process. So 12 have been completed with 8 in process. County rehabilitation, still working through the multiple funding sources out there in those municipalities between the Act 137, which is now pretty much every municipality except for McCain, Union City, Girard Township, Northeast Borough. We have funding for pretty much every resident within Erie County. So we're working through spending that funding as well.
And I see your comment on, lack of contractors and supply chain issues as being just kind of a universal.
Yeah, that's really our biggest holdback right now is contractor capacity. Supply chain issues, I mean, when we think that we're going to finally getting to the point where stuff's coming in stock, something else ends up short. So we're working on contractors. We're still actively soliciting for contractors. We do now have, the contractor incubator funding available. So hopefully we'll be able to get that program up and running relatively quickly, at least by the end of the year, and be able to assist some contractors into our program. And that's the rehabilitation report. Any other questions?
Your reports. All right, very good. Now it's my pleasure to invite Solicitor Jean to our podium here.
Good afternoon. How's everybody doing?
Good, thank you.
Great. Aaron, I have a number of these. If you could help me get it to them, that'd be great. Wanted to bring you up to speed on a couple of the three that have been dogging us for a while. Tomorrow's the big day. It's going to be the argument in the Commonwealth Court with regard to Zach, Donald Crenshaw's LLC. I did receive an email this afternoon, and Jay may be able to help us here in a little bit. John Knox reached out to me and wanted to know if I would object to having the court rule on the briefs only. And I think that's customarily done way early. The Commonwealth Court's closed today. He's going to reach out in the morning. I was going to just work from home and then leave from home about 9:30. The argument's scheduled at 1 o'clock. And I gave him, I said, hey, send me an email or contact me. I don't have a problem with them ruling based upon the briefs. We won at the trial court level, and his brief really did not propose anything new or novel or concerning to me as the solicitor for the board, so that I said, yeah, if they're agreeable to rule based upon the briefs only, I'm okay with that. So I'll let you know about that. At this late date, I don't think that's going to happen, because I think, again, looking back at the appellate rules, I think that's done initially at the time that you're submitting the briefs. Sure. That you have to agree, hey, look, it's okay for the court just to agree based upon the briefs, not at this late hour. But they don't want to be, you know, they don't want to be inconvenienced. If they can just forego argument, that's better for them. So it may very well happen. So I would let Aaron know tomorrow. I have tactfully reached out to find out where the status is with the other two. The one, Easterling, has been dismissed, and we are waiting for that, for the pleadings to be resubmitted, sent back from the court to Judge Piccinini's office or to the Berthonetary's office, so that he can set that hearing on the no value, zero value. Watford is still up in the air. We filed a motion to dismiss it, so we're waiting to hear from them. But I don't anticipate that that's going to be any curveball. It's just a wait and see. So I wanted to keep the board up to speed with regard to that. Aaron had mentioned that we had filed the condemnation action on 25. We're now to the point where we are going to file the petition for the hearing on the valuation. Of the 25, there has been 2 that we've removed out of there. There was an agreement with one of the gentlemen. Is that? I think that's.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, Mr. Nettles.
Mr. Nettles is going to work with the Redevelopment Authority to rehab that, and then 2426 State Street. We have a gentleman who has passed away. So, and then Nation Star is going to reach out. Wants to take a look at that. So I'm working with them to see what if anything they would do. But once they see and I've sent them the condemnation or the petition, I have sent them the full petition along with the appraisal. They're going to go, we don't want anything to do with this. So I think that will go by the wayside as well. And then we've already started to secure the title searches on the next batch, so that there is no delay from the time that you pass the resolutions to go ahead with the condemnation. It used to be we waited until we received your resolution sent for the title searches, and it took a longer time. Well, the title searchers aren't as backlogged, but it's still a little bit slow. So we've jump-started those. So they've already been coming in. I've been reviewing them so that we can get them filed promptly. As a follow-up on the Downing Street matter, Aaron and I have been in communication. The gentleman has been in City Hall a lot, reaching out to people, and quite frankly, he thought that he could go down to the Commonwealth Court with affidavits or make a statement to the Commonwealth Court about what he was going to do, and that he had the financial wherewithal to do it. Curiosity got to me today at lunch, and I drove to look at it. It is a major problem. It is. I don't care if the guy hit the lottery. That is not going to be rehabbed. If I was a neighbor in that community, I would be. Mm-hmm. You would be getting a certified letter from me every Monday. It is that bad. And I let his attorney know that, because he ended up calling me again this morning wanting to know, hey, look, he was told by the gentleman that he might have gained some traction talking to some people, and maybe the land bank was interested in working with them. And I go, well, that's nice, because the land bank has nothing to do with this. It's the Redevelopment Authority, and he has not gained any traction at all, mm-hmm. and cannot. So you might have been contacted by him. I know he was in City Hall last week, but all you need to do is take a drive by there, and it's pretty shocking how bad it is. So we will know by this time tomorrow where we stand with regard to that matter. I think we're going to be successful, but what that does, just to let you know, it kicks us back here for the valuation hearing. So where we then go back into court and say, look, it has no value, it's only gone down further, which again, I would, that's why another reason I wanted to go see it, to be able to make a representation to the court as well.
Oh, sure.
So I thank everybody for their patience, because I know that he was making calls and reaching out to people.
Okay, well, thank you. And
With that, I'm done with the report.
all right.
Thank you.
Safe travels tomorrow, if you have to go.
Thanks, Gene.
Item 4 is general updates and information. Is that?
All right, yes, absolutely. So just one update as far as our RACP grant in Union Square.
Mm-hmm.
Had a teleconference today with our consultant who is handling that in the MTA. Moving along with the subcontractors as far as getting the mill certificates for that project and a lot of the other documentation. The big sticking point is with Mike Coates Construction, the general contractor on that project, and it was their pending lawsuit, but supposedly they've come to a resolution. They're entering into a final agreement on that. So it's really come to the point that we may not be able to get the mill certificates from them as the general contractor. So we're going to look at moving forward with that project, eliminating Mike Coates as one of the participants in segment 3. Trying to get as much out of that as we can, and then rolling the remaining portion of that RACP grant into the EMTA segment 5. So we're going to move in probably the next week or so, getting with EMTA, getting that budget refined, adding in the match with that, and trying to make that match up with their segment 5 project funding. So just a little update as far as where that is. So that's all my other general updates.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Snipper? Mr. Albosat, who's communicating remotely, did you have any comments or questions?
Not at this point, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Just
Chuck.
want to make sure that we haven't forgotten about you. All right, on
Still
to,
awake.
All right, perfect. On to unfinished business then. So it's the blighted property
All right.
acquisition.
Absolutely. So in front of you is a resolution. On that resolution lists 15 properties. As Gene mentioned in his solicitor report, there's 14 properties, and Cynthia has the revised resolution. The property at 261 East 31st Street, the owner of that property has filed bankruptcy. So out of an abundance of caution right now, Gene has asked that we remove that from our condemnation list while they try to go through that legal side of it and see where we stand as far as that goes. So right now we're looking for the board to approve the resolution to file condemnation on 14 properties, and the exclusion is the 261 East 31st Street. So, and these are probably some of the worst properties that code enforcement has been dealing with. I know there's a couple other ones we wish we could have on that list, but for right now, those are probably some of the worst on the blighted property list.
All right, is there a motion to approve the resolution to condemn? Kevin?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 We are going to have another resolution drawn up.
Yeah, the revised, Cynthia has the revised resolution for the signing and everything. We just didn't take it out of the packet,
All right, yeah,
but it is available.
not a problem.
You want to hit your microphone button.
I'm sorry, I thought it was up.
Yeah, you're on now? Perfect. All right, on to the loan program.
All right, so I put together a resolution. April and I, over the last month and a half, have met with about 7 different software companies to evaluate a loan origination and servicing software for the authority's loan programs. So through that and working with those different software companies and seeing what they have to offer, we finally settled on the mortgage office and feel that would best fit our needs for certain, for applicants to apply online. It has a ability for us to add it to our website. They will fill out the application, it'll input it right into the software. We'll be able to move them through the process, underwriting, document creation, to closing and then into the servicing and getting payments and ACH and the NOTCHA files and everything that comes along with that. So that is my recommendation. However, I'm asking the board to table this for another month. Last Friday, late in the afternoon, April and I had a meeting with Karen Black from M8 Consulting, kind of as a discovery call, and she brought some light to a few things that we were thinking. And so we want to have some more time to evaluate that, speak with some people. She recommended us talking with some people out of Philadelphia who have a loan program, and in Cleveland Heights, to kind of get their perspective of the issues they had and things that we could potentially look to maybe do better from the get-go than going through the same issues they had. So my recommendation is still the mortgage office, unless through that over the next month until the November meeting we have some other insight as far as a direction we should go.
Question, do we know if she's recommending another software or want us to look at another software?
No, we didn't even really talk to her about software, but it's really more on the programmatic side of how the loan program has been challenging, and how we differ from, we've talked to a lot of people on the commercial side of revolving loan programs, but there's not a lot of experience on the residential side and the regulations and requirements that will come along with that. So we're still working through that. A lot of the calls haven't come as quickly as we wanted, but we're still diligently working on that.
Okay, so we'll table that to the next meeting. Perfect. Item number 3, new production program.
All right, so as one of the housing initiatives, we had our new housing production program, which was, the intent of it was to develop new workforce housing within the city of Erie. We had a substantial benchmark in there of 100 units and a total of a little over $1.9 million. So through the implementation of the American Rescue Plan funding, we pulled out $1 million of that and put it into the loan program, and so we still have a little over $931,200 of ARPA funding in that bucket of money. So the intent of it, like I said, to rehabilitate or develop new workforce housing and everything that comes along with that, with the emphasis on single family properties. And so as we have continued to work through and kind of developing the community land trust and those conversations and how we try to utilize the redevelopment authority and the land bank to get properties through our processes into the land trust and provide it, one of the things has come that we could utilize a lot of this money for some subsidy funding. And so what I put together for you is kind of a brief program overview and really where I feel this program could go. Certainly, I still want to seek out a developer to look at developing on some of our single family lots. We're still assembling lots through the blight mitigation, as in the resolution you approved earlier. But I also see an opportunity that we can work with the neighborhood groups and the community land trust to help provide some grant funding to help subsidize some rehabilitation projects, which still give us workforce housing, but allows us to work with, like I said, the neighborhood groups and support their efforts and initiatives as well.
And do you have a sense in terms of the geography of where this development might occur, or?
Well, large overview is in the qualified census tracts, given that
okay.
the American Rescue Plan funding is only eligible for use in the qualified census tracts, this program.
Which is generally the CDBG area?
Yeah, it's primarily, it's 5th Street south to 26th Street. It goes over into the east side up to the bay.
Okay.
But it kind of jogs at Buffalo Road and goes north of there. So I can send the map out to you, you guys as well.
Will this map be posted on the website or I guess anywhere else where the loan guidelines will be posted?
Yes, and so with the redevelopment of the authority's website, the new rollout it is hopefully within the next 30 to 45 days. We'll have a lot more information on there. We've been kind of strangled with getting information up on our current website since the CRM is outdated and we can't add documents to it. We have some measures in place to get the agenda and stuff like that up, but it's bulky to add a lot of these program details. But the city's website, we work well with the city, and they have the American Rescue Plan funding up there, and they mimic a lot of our programs information up on their website to allow citizens to get access to that as well.
Okay. Excellent, thank you. Now it's my pleasure to call to the podium Anna Franz from our West Bayfront, our Executive Director.
Does this work? Good.
Yes,
Thank
it
you very
is.
much.
All
Thanks,
right.
Mr. Scalise. Thanks for having me speak today about our application from our West Bayfront for the new production program funding through ARP. For those of you who don't know, I think I know pretty much everyone here, but I'm Anna Franz. I'm the Executive Director of our West Bayfront. We are a nonprofit neighborhood improvement organization that works in the West Bayfront neighborhoods directly adjacent and to the west of downtown Erie. We've been around formally incorporated for, about 5 years now, a little over, maybe close to 6. We do a variety of things in the community. A lot of our work is focused on improving the quality and affordability of housing in the community, in terms of housing grants to property owners, and then also acquisition and redevelopment of typically vacant properties. And so that's sort of the background for this specific request that we have before you, and I believe you all have. You've got the budget? Okay. Just a little bit of history. We've done now 3 completed renovation projects where we've acquired vacant buildings and renovated. It's two family homes and then 1 mixed-use property that has commercial space on the ground floor and 3 apartments upstairs. Moving it forward, we want to continue that work at the scale of hopefully 2 or 3 properties per year, ideally. We have relied very heavily on the Redevelopment Authority, on Aaron and his staff and the expertise that they bring to handle a lot of our construction activity, construction supervision. But just recently, actually as of last week, we hired in partnership with the Bayfront East Side Task Force on the east side a neighborhood asset manager that will be handling all of our construction supervision, both internal development work as well as our outreach within the community and sort of supervising our grant programs. So that really is a helpful tool. It'll be a real step forward in our growth as an organization. The project that we've got before you is a big step forward in terms of our renovations. We have acquired over the past year 3 additional vacant properties, and we're sort of treating them as a portfolio. We're kind of working them together, though 2 of them are within the QCT and 1 is not. We have received funding from other sources, so I did share the budget for all 3 of them because we're just trying to mix and match funding as it becomes available to meet the needs there. 2 of the properties, the one at 521 West 3rd Street and 702 Raspberry, we acquired through the Erie Land Bank, and then the 3rd property at 911 Walnut Street, we purchased from Gannon University, where I believe it had been donated by a former staff person and left to the university, and it sort of sat, I think maybe for 5 years or so, vacant before we took a look at it and realized that it had potential for the community. The prices, I think I included the acquisition costs in our budget, are very low. That reflects the substantial renovation needs that exist in all 3 of those properties. So, we don't feel that these are candidates for demolition. We do think that they can be renovated and they should be renovated, but we really want to have them modernized and have them, fully renovated so that they will, meet the needs and not require a lot of piecemeal work going forward. As I said, we've secured funding already for the renovation work from a couple different sources. So we've received $165,000 in Keystone Communities funding from the state to be used at all 3 properties. We've also received a FAIR grant of $100,000, which is dedicated to 2 of the properties. I'm going to try to remember which 2. I think it's 911 and, oh no, it's not 911, not 521 West 3rd and 702 Raspberry. We've also put already some of our own funding toward sort of the initial stages of renovation. We've put new roofs on 2 of the properties, and then we've allocated some additional funding that we will put toward the development costs. And then we are anticipating that we will hopefully be receiving lead paint remediation funds from the Redevelopment Authority because all 3 properties have tested positive for lead. So what we're really seeking is gap funding to cover the remaining costs of renovating the 2 properties that are within the QCT. Our end goal for these 3 properties, we would like to keep 2 of them as rentals. So 521 West 3rd Street is actually currently 2 apartments that it was originally constructed as a single family. At some point in its history was divided up. We want to put it back together as a single family home, but keep it as a rental because we've seen that there's a lot of need for sort of larger single family rental homes. 702 Raspberry has an upstairs unit and a downstairs unit, as well as about 500 square foot of commercial space. And we would keep both of those apartments as rentals and then also lease out the commercial space for a community purpose. You know, it's not large enough space that it's going to generate a ton of income, but we do think that there's some opportunities there to meet some of the interests of the neighborhood in that area with maybe a small cafe or something along those lines. And then 911 Walnut Street, that we envision as a for sale property. It's a single family home, and it probably needs the least amount of work. It's in pretty good shape already. We actually, I personally would like this to be the first property as part of the community land trust that's been talked about, and I'm sure you're familiar with, but we'll see how the timing of that winds up. But the intention certainly is to keep it sort of, you know, affordable kind of market rate within the community. We don't want to be, you know, selling that property for something that's well out of bounds of what's typical in the West Bay front. And then any proceeds we receive back from that would go right back into our housing renovation and acquisition activities. So I think that's pretty much it in terms of our sort of overview and context of these projects. We do have scopes, thanks to Aaron's team, estimates that were developed last year, I believe, which are the basis for our budget. I imagine that once we get into bidding, those prices are going to look a little different, but that's sort of what we're hoping in terms of the costs. And as I said, we've put new roofs on 2 of the properties. We've started to do some demolition in 1 of them. We could keep sort of piecemealing these properties as funding becomes available, but that's not very efficient. It's not the best way to kind of go about this work. So what we'd really like to do is have the funding in place to be able to do the complete renovation all at once, so we can get them, get them occupied, and not have these vacant properties sitting within the neighborhoods. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and I thank you for your time.
So Aaron, do we have a process by which groups such as our West Bayfront request, or is Anna being extremely proactive? And
yeah, Anna is extremely proactive. This would be the first. We don't really have a defined process yet for it. My thought process is that, as long as they're an organized neighborhood organization, that, if they wanted to have a property that met the qualifications of the program, that they would then present in front of the board for the board to make the decision on the approval.
Okay, maybe this is an opportunity for us to help, pave a process then.
Yes.
Any questions for you? Yeah?
I have a few for Aaron. So I guess since we don't have a process approved by the board, from what I've seen at least, I question from a transparency point of view. Obviously these properties are in need of rehab and need to be occupied by households, but I just, from a standpoint of transparency, government transparency and fairness, I'm questioning a little bit, how organizations like our West Bayfront can come in for this money, whereas other neighborhood groups haven't had that opportunity yet.
I can tell you, the Redevelopment Authority and the Erie Neighborhood Growth Partnership, which is the authority's 501c3, meets monthly with all of the neighborhood groups, and they have been the advisory council to the Redevelopment Authority and the development of all of our housing initiatives as part of the American Rescue Plan. So at all of the meetings, we've discussed, you know, where these go and what our plan is moving forward. So we have everybody who sits within a QCT at that table on pretty much a monthly basis.
Okay. And have any redevelopment authority staff underwritten the application yet?
No.
As far as the construction is concerned, and did we put bids out for contractors, or how do we come up with the scope?
So the scope was, the initial scopes were developed by Pat Otney at the Redevelopment Authority, sort of under that relationship. Going forward, once we have financing secured, what we'll do is have our new neighborhood asset manager sort of just make sure that that scope is fully updated and then go out to bid. One thing I should have mentioned is that both the use of our PHFA, that's the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency, and our state Keystone communities require prevailing wage. So we will be incorporating that into the bid process.
My question was from a high level because we have those regulations that we have to begin to follow. So I just want to make sure.
And we would be seeking competitive numbers, certainly.
Will we be seeing a revised budget since, as you mentioned, these estimates are from last year, so, you know, construction costs between supplies and labor have just increased substantially, so be interested to see what percentage of an increase we could expect in the construction budget.
Yeah, I think once we have those numbers, we can certainly put together a revision.
And will our West Bayfront be taking a developer fee upon the sale of these properties?
So we've written into the budget a developer's fee administration of $5,000 per property.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so our next steps would be,
Well, I think, you know, I would like the board to acknowledge if they are, you know, at least acceptable to this opportunity to provide Anna with the funding so that she could move forward with compiling her budget and knowing where she sits. And then, you know, as we move to getting the application underwritten, then we can bring it back to the board for the approval and disbursement of the funding at that time.
and I have to continue to disclose, I also serve on the board of our West Bayfront, so I will abstain from any decision-making going forward. Any other thoughts, questions?
No, so we're basically not approving anything today, it's just primarily beginning to put things in place for the final submission. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I would probably want to see like a formal application process be implemented before we do vote on it.
Right.
Okay.
And then obviously be able to review an application for this on the Redevelopment Authority's formal application.
Mm-hmm.
That was my takeaway from your comments, that we are going to be putting that process in place, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think we'd also want to make sure, see evidence that all eligible organizations would be notified of the resource.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anna.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you, Anna.
You're doing a good job as well.
Did a great job. Absolutely. Jade, I'm sorry, I know Mr. Alberstadt, if you had any questions or comments, I just want to make sure because you're remote. You don't have to have any, just want to make sure.
No, I
You're good?
think that's exactly the right way to proceed.
Okay, perfecto, thank you. I've been on the end of those calls, and sometimes it's hard to get a word in edgewise. I just want to make sure. Okay, so item number
Thank
5
you.
is, you're welcome, of course, a Historic Preservation Grant Program.
All right, so in your packet and provided for you is the Historical Preservation Grant Program that we're working with the city's Historic Review Committee.
Can you go on over, Aaron, with the sun?
If I go this
There you
way.
go. Feel free to move your chair.
So they were provided this at their meeting last Monday. Some questions came up, so we're going to provide some answers for them. They're going to look to approve it at their meeting in November. At that point, then the final draft of that will be placed on the Redevelopment Authority agenda for your approval as well, along with a copy of the application that we will utilize for accepting people into this program. So the HRC will act as the review of all applications, given that that's really more what they're fit to do. So Redevelopment Authority will approve the program guidelines. The HRC will act as the advisory council to the Redevelopment Authority as far as applications, and then we will administer the grant funds to those approved applicants. So feel free to read through that, provide any feedback you feel necessary as far as that goes, and I'll pass it on to Chris Kinder at the city, and then to the HRC for their review at their next November meeting.
Okay. So you look for comments this week or next week?
Yes,
Just to keep
please.
keep moving. Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you. Item number 6, appraisal services contract.
All right, so as part of the authority's condemnation activities, and really a lot, given that we have, the American Rescue Plan funding between our blight mitigation program and the East Bayfront Greenway Trail project, we're going to utilize the use of the appraiser a lot more than we have in the past. So we RFP'd on September 8th for, certified appraisal firms. We received the one proposal from Bill Schaff and Associates, LLC. So it is my recommendation to enter into a contract for January 1st of 2023 through December 31st of 2024 with a lump sum fee of $350 for each vacant land or residential property appraisal.
So only one response then?
Yes.
Was this rebid?
Rebid?
After only one response was received? Was
No,
that process?
no. We emailed it out to several appraisers in an effort to try to get some kind of response from that, but Bill Schaff was the only one who responded to the RFP.
It's been a while since I've been in this little detail, but the $350 fee seems very reasonable. Very
Yeah,
competitive.
that's right in line with what we've been
Yeah.
paying.
Yeah, that's yeah. So no question on the fee. We're just making sure process. Okay. Good. So is there a motion to accept the resolution awarding Bill Schaff and Associates?
So moved.
Okay. Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, item number 7, asbestos survey and testing services contract.
All right, so same as before, as part of our blight mitigation, given that we're going to acquire properties primarily, in larger quantities, and a lot of those will fall within the regulations of requiring asbestos abatement, as opposed to now, since they're far enough apart, they're not constituted as a project. We have to have an asbestos surveying and testing company. So again, we RFP'd for firms. We ended up receiving 3 proposals. 2 of them came in before the deadline. The last one came in on Friday. But my recommendation is to enter into a contract with Skelly and Loy from January 1st of 2023 till December 31st of 2024 with the following fee schedule. So when they broke out residential properties, 4 units, 2 residential structures, and then lab fees, and then final report costs.
Questions? Any questions? Okay, if there's no questions, is there a motion to accept the proposal, resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Very good, thank you. Item number 8, performance review of our executive director. For that part of the meeting, I would like to turn that over to the immediate chair, Mr. Jay Alberstadt, who conducted this process then. So, Mr. Alberstadt, you have the floor.
Thank you. So as part of a somewhat delinquent evaluation of the executive director, which should have taken place much earlier in the year, we did circulate evaluation forms to the board and a self-evaluation to Aaron. Received those evaluations, which were in general very positive, and we discussed them as we are permitted to under the Sunshine Act in an executive session meeting of the board. Based on that meeting, we are going to have Chuck meet with Aaron to discuss the one area that both Aaron and the board members thought could be improved, and that is community awareness and involvement in the activities of the authority. And I believe we reached a consensus on a compensation adjustment for Aaron, which, if there are no additional questions that need to be discussed in executive session by the board, I am prepared to make a motion at this meeting. Again, unless the board feels we need to go back into executive session for some reason.
Any board members wish to discuss privately?
No.
Hearing none. Mr. Alberstadt, we're okay with your proposed recommendation. Please continue.
I would make a motion that retroactive to January 1st of 2022, that Mr. Snippert receive a salary increase of $3,500 and a bonus of $2,500 for his performance.
There's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr.
Aye.
Alberstadt? Oh, thank you. Thank you for your work on that. Mr. Snipper,
Thank you.
thank you for your work. We appreciate it.
Most welcome.
Appreciate you guys.
We'll circle back and, kind of keep it moving.
All right.
Bigger and better, upward, moving upward and forward. We appreciate your work.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Are there any other business items to discuss? Any other items? I think we're going to have a meeting on November 14th.
Yes, we are going to have our November meeting. There's
will have
a
a
lot
November
going on,
meeting.
so.
So we'll, because a number of really great and positive things are happening, so we want to, keep things moving and so on. And then I would simply ask that the audited financial statements be emailed to Mr. Alberstadt and to Rose Graham, who could not make today's meeting, then so they can have electronic copy and get them sent out.
Yeah,
Then
it should be in the Dropbox,
Okay.
the link that was provided last week, but I'll
Oh.
shoot an email out to everybody as well.
That requires me going to the Dropbox and then there's, kidding. Okay, so they're there already electronically then.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, caught me on that one. Okay. Any other announcements before we adjourn the meeting? Hearing none. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time
Thank you.
today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
You're welcome.